kitties have had a taste of the outdoors. It's so cold out, I almost feel like maybe I could let them out for 5 minutes once a day or something. They just will want to come back. Today's video might be titled An Extremely Mid Free Box Book Haul, or An Excitingly Mid Free Box Book Haul, because it's alright. Recently this channel has looked at, now I believe, the entire front room's worth of books. I live in a 2-bedroom apartment with that second room for my kids that are here once in a while. There's this front room area. This little side nook that's in the front room, kind of. The kitchenette, obviously, off to the side over there. In this front room now, we've looked at all the books. The antique books, the sci-fi books, the science books, Southwestern books, the nonfiction books, more nonfiction books, more nonfiction books, and more nonfiction books. And more nonfiction books. Honestly, too many books. No one should have this many books. This much knowledge, that much power in one person's hands. If knowledge is power, I'm like a nuclear country right here. All these individual author books. Yeah, there's almost 500 videos on this channel now. Give me a break. And these art crit, lit crit, film crit books, along with the second half of this section in my room. And we looked at all these New Mexico books. We even glanced at these kitchen books, though I don't think they got a video of their own. Only books I could do a video on maybe out here are books that are on the walls in some way. And displayed books. Maybe displayed pile books. Maybe I'll do one last video in this room on just the random books we haven't looked at yet. I'll tell you, this sci-fi book's going to become wall art because it is not very good. Help me realize I don't want to be a Simak completist. This is like, feels like a kid's writing exercise of a book or something to me. Just spinning out a little yarn. They kind of sort of start to put a little Wizard of Oz type group of characters together, and then 2 of them, the most interesting, just leave the group permanently and are barely heard of again. They set up this interesting idea of a cemetery planet and ghosts and so on. Interesting. It's not without merit, but it's like visiting a dead world, kind of a dead story. You know that phrase, not with a whimper, but with a bang? This is kind of like the whimper, you know? You think you might be getting an exciting story, but it's really like, it's kind of light on ideas too. I don't know. I'm like, a book this short and with a premise like this shouldn't drag, you know? And these things are very subjective. There's glowing reviews of this on YouTube. And there's people reading the back cover of it and calling that a review. But I think this is better as an object than a book. It does have an interesting idea in the beginning. This kind of I do love that cover, look at that. Simak writes these books about just people wandering around after civilization has fallen. Like, that must have been his core fantasy. Which is a cool fantasy. Society has advanced and then collapsed, and you're wandering around with a band of just a few people afterward, piecing it together. That's, you know, that's cool. I think he does that much better in this book, which I found charming and pastoral. He is called pastoral sci-fi, his genre. That's a good book. Read that at the right time. And this was the first Simak I read, and some of the first classic sci-fi like this, besides like Ray Bradbury. But that is a true quote about it. I think it's what made me buy it originally. A science fiction novel with enough thrills for 5 sequels. So I like that idea of it being that packed. I'm trying to write a book kind of like that now. In fact, I might reread this. Even after feeling a little burned by Cemetery World. I want to read a lot more sci-fi this next while because I'm writing a sci-fi novel. I just knocked out a quarter of it in like 2 weeks, just when I could at night. I honestly think, I've been thinking about this thing so long, and I wrote a draft of it forever ago. And I've got it all planned out on note cards, 90 note cards, which is a tribute to David Lynch saying, you write yourself 70 scenes. I misremembered, I thought he said 90. Put them all together and you got a movie. So I did 90. And actually it became 108. It makes more sense with the structure of the book and how I'm putting it together. Which is in 6 sets of 18, going up to, oh, it's so cool the way this is structured. I don't want to get into it too much. It's the structure of the book, but it's so cool. Okay, I'll just say it. My book is called Earth is an Egg, and it's set in the year 2100 when Earth and space. I've got this kind of timeline developed where I imagine that around 2075, humanity had just basically figured everything out after like a bunch of disastrous history, but then major, huge advances in quantum technology and in quantum computing technology and artificial intelligence, and just society being completely rapidly transformed a la the early 1900s, you know? But in a space way. Think cube squared, hypercube, except not dystopian. Which just, technology's basically figured out all the things. But around the year 2075, yeah, humanity's like, we're here, the new end of history, basically. Lives are being greatly prolonged, etc. Immortality, one of humanity's only remaining unachieved goals. Along with time travel, they do have this stuff, time dilation, where you can experience more time in a short amount of time. Which so far in my writing is mostly like, I've got side characters using it for like video games and stuff. Anyway, around 2078, Earth starts having these huge giant quakes that like create new Grand Canyons across whole continents. And by 2100, humanity's in this uneasy stasis between the utopia that they've generally achieved and just these huge earth-destroying quakes that are just bigger than technology's ability to meet it. But Earth is connected to space now by 7 space elevators around the equator of the planet. And this is in my book, not Cemetery World. And so at the distance of 100,000 miles from Earth is a perfect ring-shaped ring. And it's called Station City, with 7 bulkier parts around it, where the space elevators meet. They're all connected by high-speed rail. It's kind of like Saturn, but more like a marble, like in a hula hoop. But I describe it as being a really cool view from the moon. Anyway, more people from Earth have moved up into Station City, or the ring that surrounds Earth, but there's still like 4 billion people on Earth. I'm gonna get off on talking about this, sorry. It's fun when you work on fiction stuff, you start living in your head in a weird way. I think it weirds you up a little bit. But I kind of believe in this work, and I can see it. I think I could, if I could tell the story the way I want, it might be 7 books now. I'm like, dang. A main trilogy, and then expand it to be this complete thing. The vibe is like Terry Pratchett meets Octavia Butler. Well, let's just make this the review for this book. I don't want to do another book on this because I would repeat some of the things I already said. Yeah, this book was just okay. Had some interesting things. I mean, honestly, I'd probably have to give it like 2.5 stars or something. 5. Who am I kidding? 5 bags of popcorn. And a little tombstone because it's a cemetery world. These kitties. It's so cute how she does this. She makes these little bird sounds. Then she starts speaking in Latin. Then I can't move. I'm paralyzed as she commands me. All right, well, doing this in public did result in a really fun interaction at a village inn where the waitstaff all started talking to me about science fiction. Like, on some level, everybody likes science fiction. And even if people are literary snobs and they say they don't, like a lady once told me at a soccer game, oh, I don't read science fiction. And I was thinking, like, if you'd seen me last week, I would have had Dostoevsky with me. You know? I read it all. And sci-fi scratches a peculiar itch and expands a person in a peculiar way. I don't think I was ever the same after Rendezvous with Rama. I'm just like, I just glimpsed something otherworldly, truly. Experience I'd never had before. All right, but that's the video part. That's a review of that. I could totally understand being a Clifford Simak completist, especially as the books kind of look like this. And as I said, it's not without merit. But I really felt like I was reading an inferior work that really went downhill. I think he spent more time at the beginning. I don't think the world was ever like excitingly realized. Like, so just the cemetery world is just this really limited part of it. It's some sort of grave robbing scheme, actually. Most of the planet is wild. The characters just get chased from place to place. They get caught in a time trap kind of randomly that doesn't make any sense, particularly organically to the story. It does kind of interestingly allow you to see different, I mean, that's the thing. I can always talk myself into liking a book that I didn't like. Like, my initial response to a book can be boring, and then I just think about it. It's why occasionally in my critical life, I have thought of this idea of the perfection lens, or whatever I was calling it. And the idea that in its way, every work is a perfect expression of something. And if you can figure out what that is, you can get some value out of the work. So yeah, I could say maybe this is a perfect expression of the culture's ecological anxieties and fear for the future of the planet, but also self-sabotaging wish for its emptiness. Maybe I won't Mod Podge this. You know what? You just bought yourself a reprieve. Clifford D. Simak, Cemetery World. This also was an expression of 1973 or 2 when it came out. Got coffee this morning, and I think it was gluteny. In pain for the rest of the day. Look at that. Speaking of Dostoevsky, saved on execution day. We're about to become wall art, little book. But I, in my great mercy, have granted you clemency. Billy Walker's so good. This has got to be the weirdest sci-fi book I own. I have not read it. Strange Relations. About astronaut, alien plant, sexy time, love. Sometimes you just want to be like, you okay? To writers and directors. I just watched a Cronenberg movie and there were scenes in there where I was just like, dude, what's wrong with you? I mean, see, you don't... well, let's do this. Here we go. An extremely, excitingly mid Freebox book haul that has some merit. Let's check it out. This is the Clifford D. Simak Cemetery World of Freebox book hauls. Okay, here, this is nice. It's the hauls. I went to 10 different boxes, just meandering my way home when I had a moment. This is a pretty nice little paperback trade size copy of The Lover by Marguerite Duras. I've had this slow plan to collect all of the versions of this story. Even though it's not my favorite Duras, that would be Destroy, She Said. But she had this significant, kind of creepy relationship when she was younger. She was like 15 with an older businessman. She told the story 3 times. She's like so French. She's never like, it was bad. She's always like, it was great. But one time was in her letters. I read about this in this great biography I have of her. One time was in her letters. One time was in this book. And then one time it was in The Lover from the North. Squirrel. I thought I had more Duras, but I couldn't find it. It doesn't make you sad, Sweepy. But here's that excellent Duras biography. Did already have a copy of The Lover, but this one's nicer. And, you know, I give books away all the time. I don't mind having a couple of doubles along the way. This is part of the paperback project, reading that whole paperback case slowly. Marked up, but vintage. Here, I believe this is a different translation title, The North China Lover. It's the same as The Lover from the North, which is the second polished and more polished way that she wrote about that story. So I need to get the letters that she wrote also are quoted in here. I like, one of my themes in my nonfiction is how memory transforms things over time, and I think it's really cool to look at that. Like another project I did that with was reading Lindbergh's first account of flying across the ocean that was published right after his first flight, real slapdash, but visceral, immediate. And reading this beautifully polished work that he wrote many decades later that really, come on, Anne-Marie Lindbergh co-wrote this thing. And she was a really strong prose stylist. She had an affair with Anton Saint-Exupéry, who was like a family friend of the Lindberghs. But Lindbergh had a whole secret second family, so... Anyway, that's cool. A new copy of a Duras book. Something new for the sci-fi section. I read a John Varley book one time. I read Mammoth, about this like tech CEO that gets transported by his fancy new time manipulating watch back to Mammoth times. And then his skeleton is discovered in his time wearing his watch. It was really imaginative and fun. I think he's kind of considered a real name. An adventure more dazzling than any since Dune. Wow. Ooh, about an alien that is itself a world. Okay. You know, kind of an unexciting cover, but gotta love it for what it is. 1979. This book and myself were born in the exact same year. We're basically siblings. We've grown up together in spirit, in solidarity. We lived through the Reagan years and the last of the Cold War. This book on its shelf, and it's my daughter calling from Germany. Okay.